Hello, and thank you for joining us. In this presentation, we're going to focus on SharePoint workflow with Activiti, basically bringing robust open source workflow to SharePoint. Now, the first question you're probably asking is, why should you watch this video? So here's a few questions to get you to that answer. Do you use SharePoint and struggle looking for a workflow solution? Do your workflow needs vary from very basic to perhaps very complex? Do you need to build workflows quickly in order to meet business demand? If you answer yes to any of these questions, then it probably makes sense for you to take a look at this video. And of course, at the bottom, here's an example of a workflow that was created using Activiti. This workflow, which has escalations and all sorts of different types of tasks and different gateways, was all built in one interface with absolutely no coding. So the key thing to take away is it's time you're able to build the workflows you need without having to do any sort of development or bounce back between different applications. So here we are in SharePoint 2013. Of course, the objective is to execute an Activiti workflow. Now, there's a couple of different ways to do that. Let's go through them. So I've got my documents folder right here with 3 documents in it. One way to execute an Activiti workflow is to click down to the Actions menu. Okay, right down here we see Activiti Workflow. I can click on that. Up pops the Activiti Workflow screen, and from here I can select the workflow I want to execute. Now, the reason these particular workflows are available to us is because there's an application in Activiti called SharePoint Integration. For those of you familiar with Activiti, you know exactly what that means. For those of you not familiar with it, think about it as an application in Activiti can contain one or more workflows. By giving somebody access to that application, they can execute one of those workflows. So what we've done here again is we've created an SharePoint integration application and linked all of these workflows. These are out-of-the-box ones that come with Activiti, nothing to do. Here's a contract generation one. This is one we did from another video, and this is probably the one we're going to use for this demonstration. And again, as I said earlier, there's a couple of different ways to do this. One is down to the Action menu. Another way is to go off and click on the document, and then just from the ribbon menu, click on Activiti Workflow. Few less clicks. Same objective or same result, we get to our Activities workflow screen. I could choose my workflow, and then I hit Go. Once I've done that, it'll automatically take the selected workflow, it will execute it, and whatever documents have been selected will be then linked to the workflow. What I mean by linked is that we didn't pull them out of SharePoint, they're linked back to SharePoint. So here's our first screen in our Activiti workflow. I'll go to project name, and I'll put the project name in there. Okay, and of course I've got some other fields here. We've got project owner, so I'll select a project owner. And of course, the department for this project happens to be finance. Now, we've got a lot of other videos you can take a look at to show you how to build these forms and how to add fields and drop down lists and all sorts of cool stuff. The objective in this video is really to focus on that integration piece, give you a flavor of how tight the integration is. All right, so here's my initial form. Now, remember earlier, I said that we have this document linked, okay, to this workflow. Let's take another quick look at it. All right, so here's that document, and I can edit it. We'll edit in the Excel web app. And I'll just put in here demo information, okay? But you can make any other changes, of course, that need to be made to the spreadsheet, all right? Once we're done and we're happy, simply close it. Okay, we're happy with what we've seen. So now we can send it to the next step in that workflow. Okay, in this case, going to the PMO review stage. I'll hit complete, and that's it. Now, for purposes of the demo, I've routed it to myself, PMO review, and that's why it immediately takes me to this next task. But keep in mind, depending on how you set up your workflow, the interaction may be via an email notification. So the moment I hit complete, an email notification goes out to the next recipient. When they click on that link, it takes them to this exact screen. So in other words, the user doesn't have to be in Activiti to know what to do next. If they are the recipient of the next task, they will get an email notification. They will click on that notification, and it takes them to their task. In this case, it would take them to the PMO review task. Here's some information from the last task that was filled out. Here's some information about me, because remember, I was the one that initiated it. So here's some information about me. All right. Down here, document folder links. This is the one document we've routed around. Let's click on it. You'll notice that demo information piece we put in there because, again, it's still sitting in SharePoint, so you're maintaining the level of security by having the document in its main repository or its originating repository. From here, I can make other changes. Okay, if I want to get rid of this, I can do whatever. Let me just go to Edit Workbook. We'll edit in Excel. And then from here, if I want to delete this or change whatever, I can do that. When I'm done, I can close it. All right, and here at my task again, I can add some comments. This looks great. Okay, and of course I can put a status, approved, and of course here's that budget piece. And what I'll do is I'll simply hit complete and it'll send it to the next step in the workflow. So what did we do? Well, we selected an activity workflow from inside the SharePoint interface. We accessed a document that was stored in SharePoint from Activiti and was able to edit that document. We learned how to access activity workflows from not just the document, remember the action list, but also from the ribbon menu across the top. Basically, the idea of accessing activity workflows, or executing, I should say, activity workflows was as easy as 1, selecting the document, 2, selecting the activity workflow, 3, hitting go. Here are a couple of activity videos we've put together that'll help you better understand how to use Activiti, the capabilities, functionality, what you can do with it, and so forth, as well as a second video which will give you a handle on the analytics, the built-in analytics for doing reporting on the different workflows that you build. We hope you enjoyed the presentation. We appreciate your time, and feel free to reach out to us to see how we can help you like we help our clients.